Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and this week we're hearing about some big albies showing up around Martha's Vineyard. We're hearing that the bite for big tog is on fire in Rhode Island. We're hearing that there's plenty of bass still coming down from as far north as Maine. And freshwater fishing is lighting up across the region. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's Web Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
So we're going to start things off with the hardtail report, and the Great Divide that's been there pretty much all season just seems to be getting wider at this point. So Buzzards Bay, the western part of Rhode Island, all the way over to about Point Judith, has not had albies all year, and it just seems to be getting wider and wider. There's really only two places right now where you have a really good shot where you're probably going to find albies, and then there's one area where your chances are probably 50-50. The 50-50 spot is that western part of Rhode Island. So, you know, from Quaney over to Watch Hill, maybe even pushing out as far as Napatree. Those fish are in there, but they are thinning out more and more by the day. Probably the best place to go is western central Long Island Sound, out by Middle Ground area, off New Haven, off Norwalk, in that area. The bite over there has been ferocious, very aggressive pods of fish out there. And I mean, you're getting them on everything. The guys are getting them on epoxy jigs, exo jigs, albie snacks, but the way I know that they're extra aggressive is that they've been smashing topwater plugs. So guys are getting them on small pencil poppers, they're getting them on jumping minnows, they're getting them on high pitch walks from Shimano. Anything that has that walk the dog or pencil popper action, they've been all over it. Those schools are going to be more pressured now because the word's getting out, but that's the place I would go if I simply had to catch an albie. The other area that's been good, as mentioned in the intro, out by Martha's Vineyard, still a viable albie fishery going on there. And there's been some big ones there. We had a 12.31 that's now leading the Martha's Vineyard Derby Shore Division. And there were other fish in the 10-pound class, or close to the 10-pound class, entered this week as well. Seems like the bite out there is slowing some, but still more than a targetable species out there. That's going to start to wind down soon, so if you're afflicted with the albie fever, you may want to plan your last trip or two soon. As far as bonito go, there are bonito being caught around the vineyard. A lot of these guys are shooting over to Nantucket and getting them on the bonito bar. I've seen fish up to about 8 pounds in that area. From shore on the vineyard, there's been fish up to about 6. And then over in Rhode Island, we've still got those little candy bar bonito around. But again, you know, I'll warn you that if you spend too much time throwing the sabiki rig and the tiny flies, you may be missing out on some bigger bonito, which have been kind of hanging out with those little baby ones. So just keep your eyes open and be ready for anything. And that's the hardtail report this week. And I'm going to start up the freshwater report again. And I'm going to do this just across the whole region instead of going state by state, because I look at freshwater as being something where, you know, especially if you're doing Connecticut, Mass, or Rhode Island, which is what I'm going to do today, it's all in that same sort of temperate zone. And I'm not going to be talking about specific ponds because I don't have that information, but I know what bites are on. And if a bite is good on Cape Cod and you live in Brooklyn, Connecticut, you should be able to get on a similar bite in your favorite bass pond. So let's start this thing up. The trend that I'm seeing the most right now is a night bite for largemouth bass on swim baits. I was out Saturday night. I did the same thing while I was waiting for the tide to change. I got myself 2 nice 4-pound fish. I lost another good one, and I caught a fish that had no business eating the bait I was throwing. And if you look around online, you'll see a lot of these guys on the Cape, Big Bite at Midnight on Instagram in Rhode Island, they're all getting really nice fish, just doing the night thing, throwing wake baits at night, throwing glide baits at night, getting some really nice fish. So that's one great fishery that's going on right now. The other thing is that fall stocking in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Mass is either underway or finished at this point. And the reports I'm hearing from the Cape have been phenomenal. A lot of these ponds that they stock, all these little kettle ponds out there, have been producing really good bites of rainbows and brookies. Fish in that like 15 to 18 inch range. And I mean, stock trout are pretty easy to catch. They're not exactly known for their IQ. So if you're looking to just get out there and bend the rod, maybe throw a couple for the frying pan, I mean, the Cape is a good place to go. Hearing similar things from Connecticut. So in the Farmington River, some of the other TMAs, the fishing has been very good. Same with some of the ponds that have been stocked out there. Now, I haven't heard anything from Rhode Island, but I'm going to remind you again, this bite is regional, and these fish have all been freshly stocked. They're not going to be that hard to catch. So if you're in Rhode Island, you're not finding a good report, but you can go on the DEM website, look up the pond nearest to you that's been stocked recently, go there, and you've got a more than reasonable chance at putting a couple trout on the shore. And that's the freshwater report for this week. And as we move over into Massachusetts, the striped bass is still the still the king. Most anglers that are fishing in Mass are chasing stripers, especially with this sort of weird and regionalized albie bite this year. And if you're up on the North Shore and you've been thinking, maybe the season's coming to a close, you're wrong. I was talking to James Jukes. He said that the fishing is still very good up on Plum Island. He said the main thing that they're doing now is that they're fishing around bait. So the first thing they're looking for is bait. He said the chief bait sources up there right now are silver sides and peanut bunker. So the daytime guys are going out, they're driving the beach, or they're riding around from lot to lot looking for birds. And when they find them, they're finding fish. It's been a topwater bite. Whatever you can reach them with, tins too, but you know, super strike poppers, guppy pencil poppers, any little walk the dog plug that you can reach them with. And the bite's been really good. The daytime bite is comprised mostly of fish in that like 18 to 24, 26 inch slot. Not a lot of actual keepers, but a few mixed in here and there. He said the guys fishing after dark that are using that same mentality, going out and looking for bait, are doing well. They're finding a lot of fish that are just under or just over the slot, with the occasional fish up to, you know, maybe 40 inches even, 38 to 40 inch fish. And again, he said that it's most important to find bait before anything else. And that just tells me that there aren't as many fish around, and they're concentrating on what they're looking for, which is bait fish. So you find the bait, you're going to find the fish. And I mean, that holds true throughout most of the season, but probably never does it hold more true than toward the end of the fall run, wherever that happens to be in your region. As you head down, we haven't heard a lot this week from Boston and any of the South Shore locations. The Cape itself, most of what I'm hearing on the Cape has been backwater stuff. Guys fishing up in the tidal rivers, up in the harbors, mostly kayak guys, some guys wading the shoreline, finding a pretty good action, you know, good sized fish, but nothing great. You know, fish up to like just over keeper size, but a lot of them. Great topwater action, great daytime stuff, and just a lot of fun. Vineyard remains slow bass-wise, and the Canal had a really good week last week, and it kind of just barely spilled over into this week. Seemed like most of those fish moved out on Monday, according to Greg from Red Top, and he says it's the beginning of the end in the Canal. I don't really agree with that. There's just been too many fish north that are still going to come down, and you know, a percentage of those fish are almost definitely going to go through the Canal. So I feel like this next set of tides, as we get closer to the new moon, is going to be another, you know, maybe it won't be as good as the last one, but I think we still have a really good shot at getting some nice fish and maybe even some really big fish. And then another thing that I will remind you guys, anyone looking for bass, this is a really good time of year to target the shores of Cape Cod Bay, basically from Plymouth out to like Barnstable Harbor. Whether you're fishing from the beach or from the boat, these fish that are migrating down, they're kind of getting, you know, held up in that little bowl. And a lot of them end up getting funneled into the canal. So those beaches, those offshore flats out there, some deep water, it's pretty uniform for the most part out there, but it can be very good at this time of the year. And I've seen some really big fish come from the surf out there and from the boats at this time of the year. So don't let your guard down just yet. Another thing that's going on in Massachusetts, blue fishing on the Vineyard continues to be very good. Now, I can't really tell if it's because the bluefish are eligible for the Derby, so guys are fishing for them a lot harder, or if it's just better there. But the two places that I'm hearing about the best blue fishing are the Vineyard and Nantucket. On the mainland, it's been very random, and most of the bluefish I'm hearing about are those little, you know, cookie cutter 2 to 3 pounders, and most of them are up inside of harbors and bays. And that's, I mean, that's pretty much the story as far as bluefish goes. Now we're going to move over to Blackfish, which is gaining speed in Massachusetts. Anywhere from inside the canal, guys are getting them at slow and slack tides in the canal, just fishing crabs on rigs on the bottom. And I mean, you'd be surprised at the size togs that can come out of the canal. I haven't heard of a really big one yet this year, but I mean, that place is magic for that kind of a thing. Out in Buzzards Bay, it's the same deal. There's a lot of short fish out there, but still good pick of keepers and some fish up to 7 pounds. Heading out toward like the western end of Buzzards Bay, where it kind of opens up into Rhode Island Sound. The bite's been even a little bit better out that way. Good numbers of fish up to like 7 pounds. And, you know, you got a good shot at getting, as you get deeper, you got a good shot at maybe finding a codfish out there. Some guys are catching some decent stripers on rigs intended for togs. So it's a good mixed bag bite out there. You might even get a sea bass that has to be thrown back. But the bite's been very good, and the fishing overall has been very good in that portion of the state. And that's the story that I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. And now as we move over into Rhode Island, the striper bite has been confined to really 2 areas. It's not really confined, but there's 2 areas of great focus. So one is the Upper Bay, Upper Narragansett Bay, from the Providence River to the north end of Prudence over into Mount Hope Bay. Still hearing about like roving schools of blitzing bass, and they can be any size from 20 inches to 20 pounds. And I would say most of them are right in the middle of that, like in that 8 to 14 pound range. A lot of topwater action, a lot of guys doing well on the fly rod. And then as you go out front, it seems to, for whatever reason, it's been more of a surf fisherman's game, and it's been mostly at night. I know that there have been smaller fish around in the daytime, a lot of schoolie blitzes along the South County beaches, even up into Narragansett and Jamestown. But the night guys that are fishing the surf have been doing pretty well for the last 2 weeks. Needlefish have been very popular. Darters have been very popular. Bottle darters have been very popular. I have not heard about a lot of really big fish. I heard about one fish that might have been 40 pounds on a small darter this week. Heard about a couple other fish that were in the low 30s. My biggest fish of the week in the Rhodey surf was 28 pounds this week. And but the other thing is that the bite has been ferocious when you get on them. So multiple times since mid-September, myself, I've had nights where I got 20 to even 40 fish in the tide. And I'm not talking about little cookie cutter or schoolies either. I'm talking about a lot of slot fish and, you know, touching 25 pounds here and there. So the bite's been very good. The only thing that's, you know, missing if you want to try to find something wrong with a great bite, just haven't been a lot of those big Rhode Island, you know, cow stripers that we usually expect to find in the fall. I suspect that we may still see them. They just might be late this year. Especially because we had those big blitzes of bass up on the North Shore of Mass and stuff, and then they kind of showed up in the canal. They haven't gotten here yet. So, you know, I'm going to keep sticking it out and hoping that I can get in front of those fish. Now, the other thing that's got everybody's attention in Rhode Island right now is Blackfish, and it has been unbelievable. I attended the weigh-in for the Rhode Island Tog Classic put on by Crafty One Customs over there in Portsmouth, and I mean, it was mind-boggling, the size of the fish that were coming in there, and watching that number just climb on the leaderboard. By the end of the tournament, you had to have over 11 pounds to make the top 3. That's an impressive fish. And the biggest fish was over 13 and a half, caught by a friend of mine, Carson Tchaikovsky. And I got a shot of that fish here. Excuse me. And the action, even on that day, it was a snotty day on Sunday. You know, high winds, a lot of rain, and just big seas coming in from, you know, big swells coming in from offshore. These guys really had to battle it out, and they still put up numbers like that. I was watching guys come to the scale with fish that were probably in the 9 to 10 pound range and just turning around and going back to the truck. They didn't even want to put it on the scale because they knew that they couldn't contend. And so these bigger fish have been coming from a little bit deeper water. Guys are fishing in like 25 to 50 feet of water, and they're targeting really gnarly structure like wrecks and big nasty rock piles, stark or steep drop-off ledges, and that's where these fish are coming from. A lot of the bigger ones seem to come on jigs. Guys fishing inshore, like the shore, well, this is all inshore, but guys fishing from the shore, I should say, have been doing better on rigs. And I've seen fish pictures of fish landed up to 7 pounds from the surf this week. And overall, the blackfish bite has just been phenomenal throughout all of Rhode Island, but it's definitely got a crosshairs on Aquidneck Island, Connecticut Island or Beavertail, and then out through Narragansett. That seems to be like the hot zone. But I even heard of some nice fish out from Westerly this week, up to 9 pounds, so the bite's been very good. And if you're looking for sea bass, you can find them inshore, but you're definitely going deeper now. You're going to start more like 45 to 50 feet, and you may end up out in 100 feet of water if you can't find them. Again, it's just targeting structure and just being willing to be mobile. You know, usually when you get on that right piece of structure, there's good numbers of sea bass on there with them. If you head out to Block Island, the action will pick up. East grounds, the windmills, some of those humps and bumps south of the windmills, they all have fish on them, or all seem to have fish on them. And there is, you've also got the bonus codfish bite out there, which has been producing fish up to 15, 16 pounds. And I've heard about more and more sea bass in that 4 to 5 pound range this week than I've heard about all year. So that bite is very good in Rhode Island right now. And then the last thing that we can mention is blue fishing, which has been, the only word for it is sporadic. You can find some small fish up in the bay, mostly at the mouths of the estuaries. So like that little cut at Cold State Park, maybe the little run out at Sepauwett, maybe up in Apponaug Cove where the water's rushing out over there, or any of those little outlets up around Warwick. You know, those are all probably going to have some of these little tiny smoker bluefish on them. The only place that I could suggest, and I don't even have a report, it's just going on past history, is the North Rip at Block Island. Fish the deep water around the North Rip with diamond jigs, flat fall jigs, things like that. You have a really good shot at getting like a serious gator. And the guys from Watch Hill Outfitters were absent this week. Harrison was out in Utah, so we got no report from them this week, but hopefully I covered it well enough for you guys, and that's the report for you guys in Rhode Island this week. And going to finish up in Connecticut as we always do. And there's 2 places in Connecticut where the striper bite seems to be exceeding all other areas. That's still the mouth of the Connecticut River, and now the Norwalk Islands are really starting to ramp up. So you definitely have a better shot at getting a big fish at the Connecticut River, but I would never rule out those islands. Some giant fish come out of there every fall. But around the Connecticut River, in the daytime, you're a lot of like just under slot and just over slot fish. Guys are getting them on top waters, also getting them on like soft plastics fished right on the surface. And during low light times, guys are doing well on surface swimmers like Dannies and Pikeys. After dark is when the magic happens. There's definitely been some bigger fish well into the 30-pound range taken. Live eels have been probably the best way to get them from shore or boat. But you can get them on plugs too, casting swimmers into the rocks, things like that. Or if you're a surf guy, swinging a darter in an outlet or bringing a needle across a shallow flat. A lot of bait in the area, a lot of peanut bunker, adult bunker, and other bait fish as well. And yeah, the bite's been very good there. Then out toward Norwalk, because we're not going to hear from Max this week either. He must be out on a boat or something today. I haven't heard from him at all. But out that way, the topwater bite has been very good. Most of the fish I'm seeing or hearing about from there are more in that like 30 to 38 inch range. Nice solid fish, great to catch on top, good numbers of them, and they're up shallow. So, you know, you're puttering along the islands and just pitching like the 7-inch dock or the splash walk or something like that up into the wash around the rocks, just working it out and catching lots of these cookie cutter, you know, 30 to 38 inch fish and having a blast doing it. Not a ton of bluefish in the mix out there. That's still a middle ground thing. Or, you know, diamond jigging like 28C and 11B. Another place that's been pretty good for stripers, especially slot size fish, is 6 Mile Reef. And then the other place that you can never overlook is the Race and the backside of Fishers. That's this time of year, you just don't know what you might find out there. I mean, the biggest fish I've seen come out of there with my own eyes was 67 pounds. And it's just one of those places that has that magic. And after writing the Connecticut report for all these years, and especially talking with Captain Bruce from the Otter, I mean, the fish that come out of there blow your mind. The other thing that's got a lot of people's attention in Connecticut is the blackfish bite, which I'm kind of surprised to say, The reports I got for the opener were kind of mixed, and usually they're really good. So I'm hoping that it just had more to do with that lousy weather. And you know, the reports we get from now to next week will tell a different story. But the guys that I talked to that went out said they were having trouble finding keepers. They were finding a lot more smaller fish, and some of their like guarantee hotspots were pretty much barren. So my guess is that it's just a water depth thing, water temperature thing. They need to move around, try deeper or shallower, and just kind of dial in where these fish are. Definitely were some successful anglers, and you know, it's no different than Rhode Island. I mean, if you're looking for the biggest fish, you're going to do better a little deeper. If you're looking to just fill a limit and you don't mind weeding through some shorts, fishing up shallow is going to get you a lot more bites. The porgy bite in Connecticut remains very good. It's slowing down for the shore guys, but you still can get them. But the guy, if you're out there in a boat, you know, fishing bait on the bottom in 30 feet of water, you find a good rock pile, you should have no trouble, you know, filling a limit. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to cover in Connecticut. Like I said, we are not going to hear from Max this week, so that's the story. That's what I've got for you guys in Connecticut this week. Now we're going to take a look at what's going on in the Coastal Kayak Clash. This week in the Coastal Kayak Clash, there was only one relevant change, and that was Justin Oser upgrading his second place Blackfish. There's no change in the standings, however, but it's worth mentioning that we still haven't received the first entry for a bluefish, which is Fish of the Month for October, so even if you catch a medium-sized bluefish this week, it might be worth putting it in there, because you might net yourself a gift certificate to yakattack.com. Thanks, guys. Take it easy. And while we're on the subject of tournaments, let's see what's going on in the Dreamboat competition.
Look who's back on top, the 2019 Dreamboat winner, Garrett Weir, by entering a 9.9 pound tog and a 4.5 pound sea bass, which brought him straight to first place with 31 total points. We also saw Andreas Brundle weigh in a 4.9 pound sea bass, which puts him in a third place in that category. Get out there and fish hard. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is the Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a new SteigerCraft center console powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Subscribe now to the Fisherman magazine to be part of the action.
And that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope it was helpful. Make sure to give us a like and a subscribe here on YouTube, and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification whenever we post a new video. And if you're not a subscriber to the magazine, please come over and check us out on the website. Got a lot of free content on there that should reel you in, but if it doesn't, just let me tell you, you know, we cover the entire region from Delaware all the way up to Maine. We have reports that you'll have access to with a subscription that cover all of that. We have articles from all of the best and all the up-and-coming writers in fishing right now for our region. And you know, we cover everything from offshore fishing to inshore to surf to freshwater, kayak, fly fishing, center pin, you name it, we got it all covered. And you know, I think you'd do well to come over and check us out, so come over and give us a look. And until next week, good luck this week.
SteigerCraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose SteigerCraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.